Hello guys, welcome back to Lines of Battle, and today we are looking at this upcoming update that is going to finally add the Fog of War into the game. And this is actually the first game that welcomed me when I tried to create a new game with this update, and you can already see the massive difference in the game's appearance. You have these weird circular units like right over here, and also in the infantry bank rank this strange unit over here as well. And so I'm just going to talk about some of the basic things about the Shadow of War and how it is currently being implemented into the game. Well, first of all, this is a small sized battle, as you can tell, and so Fog of War don't really play that big of a part in the battle itself. I mean, you still have these units that say unknown cavalry, unknown infantry. However, at the same time, there isn't really that many places where you could hide a large amount of force, especially in the deployment phase, that being only this part over here, which gives you a fairly good check on the rest of the battle site. Now, however, when we get to the game mode called Grand Battle, something does get more interesting, because at this point you actually have absolutely zero oversight of the enemy deployment. This is being kept, of course, by terrain, but also by the range to which your units can see. To demonstrate this, I have made this custom map where you can really see how far can a single line infantry unit see on the map. And as we go out, we can perfectly see the first couple units, but when we get about this range, we start seeing unknown infantry, and when we get even further, we just get an unknown unit. Essentially, our infantry can cal up to like about this distance if some unit is on horse, but at this point they just see blobs moving in the distance. Now this of course does have some interesting implications. However, most fortunately, you cannot get shot from this distance, not with any type of artillery, so at least you cannot get shot from the very end of your vision. Now we have seen these different skins for infantry, for example right over here, but going back to the first game for cavalry as well, etc. However, there's also a different design floating in the development announcements. In this design you can see infantry right over here, artillery over here, and the cavalry basically over here, and these are the unknown unit types. Now whichever design will get implemented is anyone's guess. As for now, we will see, just be familiar with this infantry skin, that is the most important difference to be fair. And then obviously we have to also discuss the tactical implications of this update, because looking at this, you can tell that the game is going to change a lot in the means of how it is played. Well, I can see a couple of things that Red could do. Now, usually you don't really want to leave such a major gap of your vision this close to your flanks or just to your deployment zone. So you will obviously have to use skirmishers, for example, to try to oversee as much area as possible, because otherwise you could face some pretty dreadful surprise maneuvers, charges from the side with cavalry, with infantry, guards and grenadiers, all of this stuff that could put you in a very suboptimal position. So you will have to be more cautious in the way you move, which means that you won't be able to play as aggressively as previously. It is a big change to the meta. I just mentioned the change to a more defensive like playstyle, but essentially you are also going to be prompted to be more responsive instead of being initiative, which will style battles more, and battles will overall get longer and probably a bit less eventful, so replace could give a more boring appearance, but I am sure that the battles themselves will remain to be very stressful to some people. If anything, you are now given more chance to make a mistake, which is actually a quite nice change in my opinion. The battle system is getting more realistic and you have to evaluate for more and more risks. Oh yeah, and one more thing, it's a very fun setting that we have. If you go into your settings when you while in the battle, and then we find the option for the Fog of War somewhere. Oh, right over here, we go down all the way to over here. You can actually change how visible you want the Fog of War to be. We can change both the alpha and the color of the fog. So if you don't really want to be that so concerned by Fog of War, if you dislike how it looks, you can turn it down, and I would assume that it would change. Have I saved it there to like save it somehow? I don't know. Maybe let's end our turn and see if it changes. Oh yeah, it did change. Okay, so now we have essentially turned out the Fog of War. This is how the game used to look like without the enemy units before the upcoming update. And if we just go back and turn the Fog of War to max, let's say, then we shall see how the battle side gets very black. Now we can obviously play around with this a bit more and let's say change it to, let's say, pink. That would be a very realistic color of fog. And let's take down the alpha to like 20, let's say 30%. Okay, let's try 30% with the pink fog, and now you can see, oh, there are some unknown units coming towards us. That is very interesting. But so yeah, you can change the color and the appearance to the fog based on how much you want to pay attention to it. If you don't want to mind it, you can obviously turn it down, and if you want to pay more attention to the small patches in the map, then you can just turn it to a very vibrant color. Like maybe I could also do red with a higher alpha, like 60 or so. And now if I have my turn, you can see that the map looks a lot more aggressive now, and it's much more easier to keep my brain aware of some of these small patches around the map where possibly an enemy could hide in the very late game if they are familiar with the potential blind spots on the map.